Hi, my name is Jaden Robinson, and I will be looking at how renewable energy will lower carbon dioxide emissions. The United States relies on non renewable energy frequently. They are facing pressure to switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy because of concerns about climate change and will only get worse in 2050. The total CO2 emissions produced in the United States in 2023 was 4.8 billion metric tons. Renewables now provide a larger share of electricity generation, and the U.S. is on track to continue this trend as companies and governments aim for carbon neutral emission goals by mid century. This shift shows an environmental and economic priority, creates new jobs, new investments opportunities, and promotes a promising switch to sustainable energy. I had two research questions. The first one is, how does renewable energy lower CO2 emissions? My second one is, how does renewable energy affect global warming and climate change? And my hypothesis is renewable energy will decrease the amount of CO2 emissions in the atmosphere, which prevents global warming and will slow down climate change. For my research, I looked at three different studies, one for transportation, one for electricity, and one for agriculture. For transportation, I compared electric cars to gas-powered cars, and I looked at Faculty of Transport and Traffic Engineering that was done in Belgrade in 2020. The study showed that EC cars can lower CO2 emissions by 20%, but that's if the carbon emission grid is lower than 727 grams per kilowatt. They also offer an alternative to lowering the weight of the electric cars so they can further reduce the emissions. The second study that I did was in Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California from 2019 to 2022. They studied electricity and studied that solar panels can lower CO2 emissions. They looked at carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxide and found that solar and wind energy provide 249 billion of climate change benefits. They also found that solar energy can cut CO2 emissions by 900 million from 2019 to 2022. And in figure 1, I have the solar panels that are used to collect the solar energy. The last study I looked at was done by the Department of Plant Biology in the University of Vermont in 2022. They studied agriculture and found that carbon farming can reduce CO2 emissions. They used the Roth-Nested carbon model and showed that rotating crops increased carbon storage by 5.3% after 10 years. They also found that it can improve environmental, economic, and social benefits. In figure 2, I just have the process of carbon farming that shows how they can suck up the CO2 emissions from the atmosphere. For my results, I just have CO2 emissions by sectors in the United States, which is the three forms of non-renewable energy that I focused on. For transportation, it makes up 39% of the CO2 emissions in 2023. Electricity made up 33%, and agriculture made up 10%. For my second table, I have the reduction of CO2 emissions by renewable energy, and I compare the non-renewable energy to the replaced renewable energy and then show the estimated amount to reduce. For transportation, electric cars would replace gas-powered cars and can reduce the emissions by 20%. For electricity, solar energy can replace coal and reduce it by 9 million metric tons. For agriculture, carbon farming instead of regular farming can reduce it by 5.3%. In Table 2, I just have the top 3 countries that let out the most carbon dioxide emissions from 1995 to 2021. It was actually a study done with all of the countries, but the United States, Japan, and Germany were the top 3. Between 1995 to 2004, the United States let out 5,829.835 emissions, and after they implemented renewable energies, it decreased by 10% in 2012 to 2021. It was 5,255.338 emissions. In figure 3, I just have examples of renewable and non-renewable energy. Like for renewable energy, it's solar, wind, photosynthesis, stuff like that. And then for non-renewable energy, it shows burning fossil fuels, coal, nuclear energy, everything that we're trying to replace. The United States electric cars are a helpful way to continue to keep CO2 emissions down in the areas that have a cleaner electric grid and can help reduce the amount of CO2 emissions by 20%. This can be seen by Table 2. Solar panels can cut CO2 emissions and have by 900 million metric tons in 2019 and 2022, which you can also see in Table 2. The panels absorb light from the sun and convert it into electricity to use instead of burning fossil fuels like coal, which you can see in Figure 1. Carbon farmers practices like crop rotation can increase carbon storage by 5.3%, which is also shown in the reduction of CO2 emissions table. The cost of renewable energy is expensive and needs to be more affordable for the people. In Figure 4, I have the cost of renewable energy in the United States in 2023. The graph shows the lowest amount and highest amount. For carbon farming, the price is based off of a farm with 463 acres. The United States discovered a way to reduce the CO2 emissions from 2012 to 2021, which is in Table 3. If continued, the CO2 emissions will decrease significantly, preventing global warming and slowing down climate change. I think the only issue is that the conversation needs to have about the cost so people can afford it. These are my references, and thank you.